Hello, Priscilla. Welcome to Functional Nutrition Radio, a Patient Files podcast. How are you?
I'm good. It's great to be here. How are you?
I'm good. You're my last talk of the day, so I love it. I get to unwind a little bit. I'm excited we get to chat about your journey because it's been so great, like just watching you through working with us, and also that you came to us too, and you were eating pretty pro-metabolic, which is on the healthier side of things. And I always like to note that because a lot of people think that like, oh, people go to work with like dietitians and stuff when they're eating like a standard American diet, but that's like not the case for you. So I love it. So let's just start off with, how did you feel like before working with us? So what made you want to seek someone out for help?
Yeah. So I think it was in 2017, I started having like digestive issues. I had loose stools. At first I thought I probably ate something, and then I kept going on and I realized this is probably not normal. Um, and I talked to my primary care doctor that year at my annual physical, and she said, "Oh, this is normal." She recommended a book for me to read that would
It's
explain how
wild.
it's normal. And at first I was like, well, she's a doctor. I guess it's normal, even though it kind of felt wrong.
Like liquid
Uh,
diarrhea. Like she was like, that's
yeah,
normal.
she was like, yeah,
Wow.
that's normal.
That's new. I never heard that one.
Yeah. I now I ask myself, maybe I did a bad, like I explained it in a
Mm.
bad way. I'm not sure, but eventually I read the book she recommended, and the book said it wasn't normal. So I was like, what is this? Why did she tell me this was normal? And at that point, I was like, well, I'm gonna have to figure this out on my own. So for the next probably 5 years, I was just tweaking my diet and tweaking my lifestyle, and I tried lots of different things, and I felt better in terms of like mentally and energy wise, but my digestion was not improving. So I reached a
Mm.
point where I was like, I've done everything I know to do, and there's probably something else going on. So that's when I decided to look for a dietitian to work with.
Perfect. And then I know too, you're not from the US originally. So you came to the US when in college. So was that food wise like a culture shock in a sense?
Not really. Um,
Okay.
I think I knew what to expect in the US. I did, and I mean, I still do miss some of the foods from back home, but I think I was probably eating sort of a standard American diet, probably
Okay.
more home cooked foods, so healthier in that sense. But like Kraft mac and cheese was dinner every once in a while. So I had a little bit of
Right.
the processed food, maybe just a little bit healthier than the American diet.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. I grew up
Mhm.
standard American diet, but my mom cooked a lot, but she would use like beef bouillon cubes instead of broth.
Mhm.
So it was like a
Yeah,
processed ingredients, but like home cooked in a sense.
exactly. Same,
So
same
I
thing
feel
for
that.
me. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And then I know you, like I mentioned, you were kind of eating pro-metabolic. What led you to that type of diet?
That was when I was very down the rabbit hole of the
Yes.
holistic health world. Um, I honestly don't know who I was following that posted about someone else who was posting about the pro-metabolic diet. And that it just resonated with me because I
Yeah.
had heard a lot of people say, you can't eat this and you can only eat this, and like sugar is the worst thing ever. Um, and everyone that was talking about the pro-metabolic diet was saying like this is easier to digest than this
Yep.
other thing, which doesn't mean you shouldn't eat this other thing. It just means you need to cook it in the right way. And like sugar is a good thing. It fuels your
Yep.
body, but also you can't have way too much sugar. So it was about balance, and that really resonated with me.
Yeah. 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 I will say out of all the like, if there are any pre-made diets, that is probably one of the top better ones for sure.
Mhm.
Obviously there's, yeah, the bioindividuality aspect to still that, but like that's one of the better ones if I had to choose and stuff.
Mhm.
And yeah, so we did stool testing and then a fun little listeria. And was the SIBO was that from your doctor testing? Or I don't remember that part. I know that's like we wrote it down, or was it the bacteria that was in the stool test that like increased levels or increased risk of SIBO?
Yeah, that was from the stool test that I did with
Okay.
you. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. How did that feel? Did you feel kind of like, I don't know, just, oh, okay, there's something to work work on, I guess, and not it's like, oh, everything's perfect. We still have no idea why you have liquid diarrhea.
Yeah, I was really happy that there was something there. I was kind of worried that nothing would show up, even though that was
Me too.
unlikely, because then I'd be like, what is wrong? There is something wrong and I don't
Yes.
know what it is. So I was actually happy. I was very confused about how I could have listeria for probably over 5 years.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I was actually happy to find it.
Yeah. And it's so crazy how sometimes certain like bigger pathogens too will pop up positive on stool testing and they actually won't have really bad symptoms, like maybe a little
Mhm.
bloating, nothing too intense. And it just goes to show how like certain pathogens can just stay a little like they're still dominant, like they're still there, but they're not full blown where you're having massive diarrhea or vomiting or nausea or
Mhm.
something like that. And sometimes there are just, it's just lingering and likes to hang out in there. And
Yeah.
get rid of it and stuff. And then through the process, I know we put you on, I'm almost positive, gut protocol with your
Yes.
symptoms. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna
Mhm.
say there's no way that I would not have recommended that for some of the symptoms you were having. How was that journey through the gut protocol?
The gut protocol, the first 2 weeks were hard,
Hmm.
but it wasn't as hard as I expected. I think it was a matter of just realizing I was worried I was going to be hungry and that I would just be miserable with all the food I couldn't eat. But just knowing that I could snack on like what I had had for lunch if I was hungry just made it a
Yeah.
lot better because then I wasn't hungry. I was actually able to get creative with foods and some of the recipes that y'all suggest. You have, I think, one or two documents that really helped.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it was hard, but I think it was good. And
Yeah.
it ended up being great because even I would go out to eat with friends and either I would bring my own food or if it was a restaurant, I just hang out with them
Wow.
and eat later. And I felt so much better because I wasn't eating all this food in restaurants that wasn't
Wow.
prepared well.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
That's actually pretty awesome because most people are very like, I'm just like not gonna go. And I love that you're like, even though I'm doing something that's a little bit more strict right now and like
Mhm.
therapeutic, I still want to go and enjoy and do things. And like, I love that. Some people
Yeah.
like literally won't do it because of that reason. And I'm like you, I'm like, I would totally still go or
Mhm.
eat before or eat after and just get like a drink or something while everyone else like ate or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I
I love
even took
that.
bone broth to a party once. It was
I
my
love
friend's birthday and everyone was drinking beer and I had like my mug of bone broth and I felt so good. So I was like,
Yeah.
I need to do this all the time.
I know you'd be like, I'm over here healing. I don't know what y'all are doing. Just kidding.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, it's definitely hard. And just for everyone listening, it's definitely not long term, but it's such a great baseline to start off of because we can start like reintroducing things based on like your preference, based on like some of the lab work, but being able to just really figure out like what works for you. Was there a certain food at all that you were really surprised that like just did not drive well with you like through the introduction process?
Not really. I don't think I
Oh,
had
nice.
any issues with anything. There were things that I already knew would cause a little bit of bloating, like cassava flour,
Me
but that I
too.
knew beforehand.
Yeah, I'm the
But
same way. I
yeah.
totally bloat with cassava.
Hmm.
Feel that. And then through your health journey too, I feel like you've had such a positive mindset, and Claire can definitely attest. Is that normally you, or did you do some work beforehand to just kind of be there and also know that this is like a journey and it's honestly it's a forever journey as long as we're alive. We're
Hmm.
kind of pivoting and tweaking and we're exposed to different things throughout our life. We go through different things like losing our parents or getting married or I mean there's just so many positive and negatives through life, but that can
Hmm.
sometimes take our health up and down a roller coaster. So it's really important to have a realistic and positive mindset through it. So is that just naturally you and you're just gifted with that or
Um, I didn't have to do any work for it, but I don't
okay.
think I'm positive necessarily with every situation. I think it came naturally with health, probably because I was slowly making incremental changes over lots of years. And it wasn't
Okay.
everything, you have to change everything at once, right? If I
Yes.
had come to you 5 years ago, that would have been a shock and it might have been a lot harder.
Mm, okay.
Um, and I think that just listening to so many podcasts and hearing so many stories and like all the people I follow on social media, I could see it was a journey. And I
Yeah.
learned that to trust my body and to trust that the healing process takes time. And that, like you said, it is a roller coaster. You feel better
Yeah.
and then you might feel worse before you feel
Yeah.
better again. And I think I reached a point where I believe that just from everything I had heard and learned.
Oh, I love that. Hold on. I want to totally write that down so I can put that as like the title of your podcast. Because it's so true. And I will say the people that go into their healing journey with that, because I think with that mindset, there's also less stress because you're not trying to self-impose like a deadline of like,
Yes.
I need to lose weight or I need to like not have diarrhea by the end of 4 weeks. Because then you have this like low key stress hanging over your head as the time goes on. And if you're not getting, but then the stress is just making it worse. Stress is like such a huge thing that I feel like people totally overthink of like the impact it has on your health. And I just find people who naturally have that, it's just a more enjoyable process too. Even if it may be still like up and down, it's just more enjoyable. And yeah, you're just like leaning into that trust. And I love that. Out of the lab testing we did, what was your favorite or what did you learn the most from?
Um, so I did the stool test and I did the Dutch test.
Okay.
And I think I liked them both for different reasons. The stool test I liked because it told me my issue and it helped me resolve it.
Yeah.
The Dutch test I liked because my results were great and I didn't really have to work on anything from it,
Yes.
which
Yeah.
at first was disappointing. But then I realized it was just very encouraging to see that all the work
Yeah.
I had done, even though I didn't feel better over those 5 years of work, I
Something.
could see the results in the Dutch test. And that
Yeah.
was very encouraging.
Nice. Nice. And you did the CGM, right? Or no?
I did that too.
Okay. Okay,
Yes.
cool. Was that one interesting at all to you? Or like what did you take away from that?
That one was interesting, but it was stressful because there
I
are
agree.
so many variables that go into blood
Yes.
sugar that I could like eat the same thing 2 days and it would do completely different things and I just wouldn't know why. So yeah, I feel like I'd have to eat the same thing for 2 weeks and like tweak it a little bit every day
Yeah.
in order to actually get data from it.
Yeah.
Um, so I learned my body's working properly. Like if my blood sugar goes up, it will come down, and that was
Yeah.
great. But in terms of
Yes.
like foods that are better or worse for me, I have no clue. So
You
I'm
really
just
did.
like,
Okay.
yeah,
So
I don't know.
interesting. Yes, it's so true though, because sometimes like even my response when I had mine on was different. Like if I ate the same thing, but I ate it like after a workout, more of like a refuel versus just like, yeah, no exercise around it, I would respond to it a little bit differently. So it's so interesting because there are so many things, even just like sleep, your sleep the night before.
Yes.
If you didn't get enough sleep, you're more naturally more insulin resistant like the next day.
Mhm.
So blood sugar is going to be a little bit different. A lot of the times you can see at least it's one or two, but yeah, that's so interesting. I too, though, like CGMs make me low key nervous. Like all the time. So I do them. I don't do them all the time. I kind of do them sporadic because if I did them all the time,
Mhm.
I feel like I'd be stressed all the time
Yeah.
because yeah, I'm always like my Aura ring. Like I love data. So like I love checking it. The first thing I do when I wake up now is like open
Mhm.
up my Aura app and be like, how was my sleep? Get all the data, but I just have to watch myself because I can
Yeah.
sometimes get too into it.
Mhm.
So I love that. What were some of your major wins working with us? Energy, stools, gas, anything like that,
Well, we got rid of the listeria.
which is a win.
Basically, yeah. My issue with the stools got resolved, which is probably the biggest thing since it was the main thing I worked with y'all for. Other things that got better was bloating, yes, and then sleep. I was having issues with waking up in the middle of the night. And Claire helped me like with ideas of like what to snack on right before bed so that my blood sugar would be regulated throughout the night and I wouldn't wake up.
Yeah.
And that has really helped.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I remember, I think this was more so on our discovery call. I do remember dry mouth. Like you would wake up with dry mouth. Did that I'd never asked Claire, I never followed up on it, but is that still a
Yeah.
thing or did that improve?
Some days it is, but
Interesting.
it did improve. And the fact that I have to think about it right now means that it's not happened as often, not
That's
happening as
true.
often as before. I know it happens every once in a while,
Yeah.
but it did improve.
Okay. Yeah. It
Yeah.
is pretty crazy throughout your healing journey and this is why I have people do like the monthly symptom thing, because
Mhm.
by the end of it, truly people will forget like, oh, I forgot I had that
Yeah.
symptom. And I'm like, yes, this is why we do it, because like we tend to like forget like, oh, I did struggle with
Hmm.
that or whatever.
Yes.
I love that. And what was your experience like with other, like just healthcare in general? I know you mentioned like your PCP and going to see them. Have you worked with anyone in like the natural field before, or were we your first?
You were my first. Well,
Okay.
I I had gone to a chiropractor, but I
Okay.
didn't expect that to solve my digestive issues. It was
Okay.
more general health. But yeah,
Okay.
y'all were the first.
Okay. And okay. Darn. No, I'm just kidding. I love that. But I also love when people have other experiences too, in both conventional and natural.
Yeah.
Because I always like to ask, like, how do you feel like our care differed? Just from like also traditional care, but also
Hmm.
like if you have experience with other natural practitioners, like how do you feel like ours differed?
Yeah. I don't know. I think after that, my primary care doctor told me it was normal. I don't know why I just didn't think to go to a different doctor, but I was like, no doctor will be able to help me with this. Um, and
You're
then
not
eventually,
alone.
yeah.
But like I you might have maybe heard this on a podcast, but
Mhm.
everyone's typical story is I went and saw someone,
Yeah.
they dismissed me or
Hmm.
something, and then they will go see other people, and it's kind of the same story. So I wonder if like maybe you heard people's experiences and you're like, maybe subconsciously, if you don't remember, you're like, why would I? Because I feel like I'm not going to really get any results. So
Yeah,
I,
it's possible. I don't think I was listening to podcasts back then because that was
okay.
before I had started making lifestyle changes.
Well, then
So
dang.
I don't know, but I'm glad.
Dang.
I'm glad I didn't go to another doctor and I ended up in the holistic
Yes.
like health world.
Yes, I know. And you found us through a podcast, didn't you?
Yes, the homegrown podcast.
Oh, I love them so
Yeah.
much. They're so great.
Hmm. They are.
I remember when I was on their podcast and it was like, was it 3 hours? And I was like, there's no way I'm going to talk for 3 hours. I was like, I'm nervous. I'm going to like run out
Hmm.
of things to say. And then before you know it, I was like, oh, 3 hours is up. Okay. They're that great.
Yeah, that was perfect timing because that was right around the time I had decided that I needed some help and I couldn't do it on my own. But I was just overwhelmed because I was like, there are so many people I could work with. How do I choose? So then when I heard you on the
Oh,
podcast, I was like, oh, she sounds legit. And I just like
I love that.
looked up the website and was like, this sounds great. So
Oh, I
I'll do
love
it.
that. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh. Yes, did you try looking for anyone else before or
not
no?
really. No,
Okay.
I think I was still at the point where I was overwhelmed and didn't want to even start. But
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah,
knew I
I
had
feel
to
that.
start soon. Hmm.
Yeah, I feel that. Okay, amazing. Well, is there anything else you'd want to add in about labs or yeah, just what you're doing, just so we wrap it up?
Um, I don't think so. I think I'd just say like to I'd like people to be encouraged, right? And to know that, like I said before, it's a roller coaster. It goes up and down. But if you put in the work, even if you don't feel anything at the beginning,
Yeah.
it is making a difference, everything you're doing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, I do believe that too. And I like what you said, like that 5 years even of like prep in a sense,
Hmm.
has helped so much. And I've met people where they've never really had a direct issue. They were just kind of into healthy living. And then something did happen that was a little out of their control, like accidents or whatever, like something that happened. And they even sometimes their practitioners will be like, it's because you've taken care of yourself for so many years that
Yeah.
yours have this issue, but like
Hmm.
you are still able to function and feel pretty good considering like certain diagnoses that they get. And so that's just always encouraging to know too, because that's how I think. I think of always like future me. And that's why
Hmm.
for me, I feel like it's really easy to stay on top of things because
Yeah.
I'm also like low key scared of like chronic illness or anything. And I like never want to have like the call or whatever. So
Hmm.
that will just keep me in line in general. But I always have to think of like future me and not what feels good now. Even though I do still enjoy things. And I'm sure as Claire might have mentioned, like I always think of things like healing season versus healed season.
Hmm.
So when you're in that healed season, it's there's things that, yeah, I definitely will see me eat that I usually don't eat, but I feel fine. It
Yeah.
doesn't bug me. And then, there's healing seasons where, yeah, you got to be a little bit more restrictive and on it, but it's always so worth it at the end to kind of
Mhm.
get to that point and like feel better.
Yeah, it really is.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Priscilla. It was great catching up with you.
Same. Thanks for having me.